of God. (126) Mystical explanations. Mystical explanations are regarded as profound. The truth is, they do not even go to the length of being superficial. 127. After effect of the most ancient religiousness. The thoughtless man thinks that the will is the only thing that operates, that willing is something simple, manifestly given, underived and comprehensible in itself. He is convinced that when he does anything, for example, when he delivers a blow, it is he who strikes, and he has struck because he willed to strike. He does not notice anything of a problem therein, but the feeling of willing suffices to him, not only for the acceptance of cause and effect, but also for the belief that he understands their relationship, of the mechanism of the occurrence, and of the manifold subtle operations that must be performed in order that the blow may result, and likewise of the incapacity of the will in itself to effect even the smallest part of those operations. He knows nothing. The will is to him a magically operating force. The belief in the will as the cause of effects is the belief in magically operating forces. In fact, whenever he saw anything happen, man originally believed in a will as cause, and in personally willing beings operating in the background. The conception of mechanism was very remote from him. Because, however, man for immense periods of time believed only in persons (and not in matter, forces, things, etc.), the belief in cause and effect has become a fundamental belief with him, which he applies everywhere when anything happens, and even still uses instinctively as a piece of atavism of remotest origin. The propositions "no effect without a cause," and "every effect again implies a cause," appear as generalisation of several less general propositions. "Where there is operation, there has been willing." "Operating is only possible on willing beings." "There is never a pure, resultless experience of activity, but every experience involves stimulation of the will," to activity, defence, revenge or retaliation. But in the primitive period of the human race, the latter and the former propositions were identical. The first were not generalisations of the second, but the second were explanations of the first. Schopenhauer, with his assumption that all that exists is something volitional, has set a primitive mythology on the throne. He seems never to have attempted an analysis of the will, because he believed, like everybody, in the simplicity, the immediateness of all volition, while volition is in fact such a cleverly practised mechanical process that it almost escapes the observing eye. I set the following propositions against those of Schopenhauer. Firstly, in order that a will may arise, an idea of pleasure and pain is necessary. Secondly, that a vigorous excitation may be felt as pleasure or pain, is the affair of the interpreting intellect, which, to be sure, operates thereby for the most part unconsciously to us. And one and the same excitation may be interpreted as pleasure or pain. Thirdly, it is only in an intellectual being that there is pleasure, displeasure and will. The immense majority of organisms have nothing of the kind. 128. The value of prayer. Prayer has been devised for such men as have never any thoughts of their own, and to whom an elevation of the soul is unknown, or passes unnoticed. What shall these people do in holy places, and in all important situations in life, which require repose and some kind of dignity, in order at least that they may not disturb the wisdom of all the founders of religions, the small as well as the great, has commended to them the formula of prayer, as a long mechanical labour of the lips, united with an effort of the memory, and with a uniform prescribed attitude of hands and feet and eyes. They may then, like the Tibetans, chew the cud of their Om mane padem hum innumerable times, or as in Benares, count the name of the god Ram Ram Ram, and so on, with or without grace, on their fingers, or on a Vishnu with his 1,000 names of invocation, Allah with his 99, or they may make use of the prayer wheels and the rosary. The main thing is that they are settled down for a time at this work, and present a tolerable appearance. Their mode of prayer is devised for the advantage of the pious who have thought and elevation of their own. But even these have their weary hours, when a series of venerable words and sounds and a mechanical pious ritual does them good. But supposing that these rare men, in every religion the religious man is an exception, know how to help themselves, the poor in spirit do not know, and to forbid them the prayer babbling would mean to take their religion from them, a fact which Protestantism brings more and more to light. All that religion wants with such persons is that they should keep still with their eyes, hands, legs, and their organs. They thereby become temporarily beautified and more human-looking. 129. The conditions for God. God himself cannot subsist without wise men, said Luther, and with good reason, but God can still less subsist without unwise men. Good Luther did not say that. 130. The dangerous resolution. The Christian resolution to find the world ugly and bad has made the world ugly and bad. 131. Christianity and suicide. Christianity made use of the excessive longing for suicide at the time of its origin as a lever for its power. It left only two forms of suicide, invested them with the highest dignity and the highest hopes, and forbade all others in a dreadful manner. But martyrdom and the slow self-annihilation of the ascetic were permitted. 132. Against Christianity. It is now no longer our reason, but our taste that decides against Christianity. 133. Axioms. An unavoidable hypothesis on which mankind must always fall back again, is in the long run more powerful than the most firmly believed belief in something untrue, like the Christian belief. In the long run, that means 100,000 years from now. 134. Pessimists as victims. When a profound dislike of existence gets the upper hand, the after-effect of a great error in diet of which a people has been long guilty comes to light. The spread of Buddhism not its origin is thus to a considerable extent dependent on the excessive and almost exclusive rice fare of the Indians, and on the universal enervation that results therefrom. Perhaps the modern European discontentedness is to be looked upon as caused by the fact that the world of our forefathers, the whole Middle Ages, was given to drink owing to the influence of German tastes in Europe. The Middle Ages, that means the alcoholic poisoning of Europe. The German dislike of life including